Daniel stepped forward, shaking, holding the bat like a shield. "Alexa, please," he begged. "Don't do this, just put it down." Tears streamed down her face. "You lied to me. You said I mattered. You said I was special." "I was wrong," Daniel whispered. "But you don't have to do this. Let us go." For a moment, the world stood still. Sit back, hit the subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell and watch why it isn't what happened to the affairs between a married man and random hoe and what led to this horrible incident. Daniel had always thought of himself as a man with everything he could ever want. A steady job, a comfortable house in a quiet neighborhood, and most importantly, a loving wife, Beth, who had stood by his side through thick and thin. To anyone looking in from the outside, Daniel's life looked perfect, almost enviable. But sometimes, when life feels too perfect, temptation has a way of creeping in through the smallest cracks. That temptation came in the form of Alexa. Alexa was new at Daniel's office. She wasn't just attractive, she had this magnetic charm that seemed to draw people in without effort. Her laughter lingered, her perfume left trails in the air, and her eyes seemed to look right through you. For weeks, Daniel avoided her, or so he thought. But Alexa noticed him. And when she noticed something, she didn't let go. It started harmless enough. A casual compliment in the hallway, a brush of her hand when passing documents, an innocent joke over coffee. Daniel felt a pull, something reckless inside him whispering that he deserved more excitement in his life. One Friday evening, when most of the office had cleared out, Alexa cornered him near the copier machine. Her voice dropped low, teasing. "You work too hard, Daniel. Ever let yourself have a little fun?" That question, simple as it was, flipped a switch inside him. He knew he shouldn't death. He knew Beth trusted him, but Alexa's eyes didn't let him think. That night, in the shadowed quiet of the office, Daniel crossed a line he could never uncross. For a while, the affair felt like an escape. Alexa made him feel young again, reckless again. She whispered promises, touched him in ways that set his skin on fire. Every secret meeting, every hidden kiss, every stolen hour at lunch, it was intoxicating. But Daniel underestimated Alexa. To him, it was a fling, a dangerous little secret. To her, it was everything. Soon, Alexa wanted more. She began calling at odd hours, sending messages late at night when Beth was asleep beside him. Sometimes, she would accidentally show up at the cafe where Daniel bought his morning coffee, sliding into his booth with a mischievous grin. "Why are you following me?" Daniel whispered harshly one morning, his eyes darting around the cafe. Alexa smirked, stirring her coffee slowly. "Because I miss you. Because I can't stop thinking about you. Don't pretend you don't feel the same." Daniel swallowed hard, guilt burning his throat. He did feel something, but it wasn't what she thought. What he felt now was panic. Beth began noticing the change in her husband. He came home later than usual. He smiled less, avoided eye contact more. Some nights, he would slip into the shower as soon as he got home, as if trying to wash away something. And at night, he would turn away from her in bed, feigning exhaustion. Beth wasn't naive. She knew the signs, or at least, she feared them. But she loved Daniel too much to accuse him outright. Instead, she asked little questions. "How was work today? You've been quiet lately. Everything all right? Is there something you're not telling me?" Daniel always answered quickly, too quickly. "Work's just stressful. I'm fine. Don't worry." But Beth's heart told her otherwise. One evening, Alexa crossed a line Daniel couldn't ignore. He came home to find a small package sitting on the front porch. No return address. Inside was a silk tie, the very same tie he had left at Alexa's apartment days ago. His stomach dropped. Beth was in the kitchen preparing dinner. She could have easily opened it. That night, Daniel drove straight to Alexa's place, his face pale with rage and fear. "What are you doing?" he snapped, slamming the tie onto her counter. "Are you trying to ruin me? My wife could have seen this." Alexa only tilted her head, a sly smile playing on her lips. Maybe I wanted her to. Maybe then you'd stop hiding me. This isn't a game, Alexa, he hissed. I have a family. A life. This, whatever this is, it has to stop. Her smile vanished. For the first time, her eyes hardened into something sharp, something dangerous. Stop? You think you can use me and walk away? Daniel's chest tightened. It was a mistake. All of it. I should never have. Before he could finish, Alexa grabbed his arm, her nails digging into his skin. Her voice dropped into a whisper. If you leave me, Daniel, you'll regret it. The following days were torture. Alexa started showing up near his home, lurking in her car across the street. She would text him pictures of Beth leaving the grocery store or his children walking to school. Each message carried the same chilling undertone. I'm watching you. Daniel's sleep disappeared. He tossed and turned, jumping at every sound outside. At work, his colleagues noticed his nerves, the way he flinched whenever his phone buzzed. Beth, too, grew more suspicious. One night, after putting their children to bed, she confronted him. Daniel, she said softly, her voice trembling, please tell me what's going on. You're scaring me. His throat locked. He wanted to confess, to fall at her feet and beg forgiveness, but fear of losing her, of losing everything, sealed his lips. Instead, he lied again. It's just work, Beth. I promise. But Beth didn't believe him anymore. Weeks passed, and Alexa only became bolder. She showed up at his office unannounced, leaning against his desk with that sly grin. She sent love letters to his house, signing them only with a lipstick kiss. She even tried to approach his children at the park, introducing herself as a friend of your father's. That was the breaking point. Daniel stormed into her apartment one night, his face twisted with desperation. Stay away from my family, he shouted. If you come near them again... Alexa cut him off, stepping closer until her face was inches from his. You'll what, Daniel? You'll hurt me? Or will you finally admit that you love me? I don't love you, he spat. This is over. Do you hear me? Over. For a long moment, Alexa stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she smiled. But it wasn't the smile of the woman he once knew. It was cold, broken, and frightening. You'll regret saying that, she whispered. That night, Daniel came home shaken. Beth was waiting for him in the living room, her eyes red from crying. I know something's going on, she said, her voice breaking. Please, Daniel, tell me the truth. Tears stung his eyes, but before he could speak, a knock echoed at the front door. When Beth opened it, there was no one there, just a single box on the porch. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, was a pair of scissors. Beth gasped. Daniel froze. And in that moment, he knew Alexa wasn't just playing games anymore. Daniel couldn't sleep that night. Even after Alexa left his house, the image of her standing in his bedroom with those scissors gleaming under the dim light wouldn't leave his mind. Every time he closed his eyes, he imagined her returning, standing over him and Beth as they slept. The silence of the house became unbearable. Beth breathed softly beside him, unaware of the danger. Daniel lay awake, drenched in guilt and fear. He knew now that Alexa was no longer a mistake, she was a threat. But how could he tell Beth? How could he look her in the eye and confess that his betrayal had invited this madness into their lives? The next morning, Beth noticed the dark circles under his eyes. Didn't sleep? She asked softly, her voice still groggy with morning. Daniel forced a weak smile. Just work stress. Beth gave him a long look, her brow furrowing slightly, but she didn't press. She had learned not to push too hard, at least, not yet. Later that day, Alexa showed up at Daniel's office again. She wasn't supposed to be there. He had ignored her calls, her texts, her emails, but she came anyway. When Daniel saw her sitting casually at the edge of his desk, twirling a pen between her fingers like she owned the place, his stomach dropped. What are you doing here, Alexa? He hissed. keeping his voice low so his colleagues outside wouldn't hear. She smiled. "Missed you. I told you to stop this. You can't just show up here." She tilted her head, her smile fading into something colder. "If you keep ignoring me, I'll have to get creative. You don't want me knocking on Beth's door, do you?" Daniel felt the air leave his lungs. He glanced at the door, terrified someone might walk in. "Don't you dare." "Then don't ignore me." Her voice was a whisper, sharp and dangerous. She leaned closer. "You're mine, Daniel. You just don't realize it yet." That night, Daniel drove home in silence, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. He thought about quitting his job, moving his family far away, anything to escape Alexa. But the thought of explaining it to Beth stopped him. Beth had started to notice his distance. She noticed how he jumped at sudden sounds, how his phone was always face down. "Daniel," she asked one evening as they sat at the dinner table, "is there something you're not telling me?" The fork nearly slipped from his hand. He forced a laugh, shaking his head. "No, of course not. Just deadlines, that's all." Beth didn't believe him, but she let it go, for now. A week later, things escalated. Beth volunteered to pick up their daughter, Emily, from school. But when she arrived, she saw something that made her blood run cold. Emily was walking toward the car, holding hands with a woman Beth had never seen before. A tall, striking woman, with blonde hair and piercing eyes. Alexa. Beth's heart stopped. She opened the door quickly, waving Emily inside. "Who was that?" she asked, trying to sound calm. Emily smiled innocently. "Oh, that's Miss Alexa. She said she's a friend of Daddy's. She bought me ice cream after school." Beth's blood boiled. But she stayed silent, not wanting to scare her daughter. That night, Beth confronted Daniel. "Who is Alexa?" she demanded, her voice shaking with barely controlled rage. Daniel froze. "What?" "Don't play dumb with me. She picked up our daughter. She said she's your friend. Tell me who she is, Daniel. Now." Daniel's world crumbled. The lie he had built was collapsing, and there was no way out. "I made a mistake," he whispered, tears stinging his eyes. "She was a fling. It meant nothing. I swear, Beth, it's over. I ended it." Beth staggered back like he had struck her. Her chest heaved as she tried to process his words. "A fling? You brought this woman into our lives, into our daughter's life. Daniel, how could you?" Her voice broke, and she collapsed into a chair, burying her face in her hands. Daniel reached for her, but she flinched away. Alexa, meanwhile, wasn't done. She began sending gifts to their house, flowers, perfume, expensive jewelry with notes that read, "For Beth, since Daniel can't stop talking about you." Beth refused to touch them. She left the boxes on the porch, as if they were cursed. Daniel begged Alexa to stop, but every time he tried to reason with her, she twisted his words. "If you didn't want me around, you wouldn't answer my calls. Deep down, you love this. You love me." Her obsession was consuming her. Beth's heartbreak soon turned to fury. One night, after putting Emily to bed, she cornered Daniel in the kitchen. Her eyes were red from crying, her voice hoarse. "I don't even know who you are anymore," she said. "Do you love her?" Daniel shook his head violently. "Number God, no. I love you. Only you. Please believe me." "Then why did you let her in? Why risk everything we built?" Daniel had no answer. His silence was louder than any confession. The weeks dragged on, and Alexa's behavior worsened. She showed up outside their church on Sunday mornings, sitting in her car and watching them as they walked inside. She appeared at the grocery store, pretending it was a coincidence. Beth tried to ignore her, but her presence was suffocating. The marriage was hanging by a thread, and Alexa knew it. The breaking point came one stormy night. Beth woke up to the sound of footsteps downstairs. At first, she thought it was Daniel, but when she turned and saw him sleeping beside her, her blood froze. She shook him awake, whispering frantically, "Someone's in the house." Daniel leapt out of bed, his heart pounding. He grabbed a bat from the closet and crept downstairs, Beth clutching Emily tightly in her arms upstairs. And there she was, Alexa stood in the living room, drenched from the rain, her hair plastered to her face. She was holding a knife this time, her eyes wide and unblinking. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice cracking, "you can't keep pushing me away. If I can't have you, no one can." Beth screamed from upstairs, and Alexa's gaze darted toward the sound. Daniel stepped forward, shaking, holding the bat like a shield. "Alexa, please," he begged. "Don't do this. Just put it down." Tears streamed down her face. "You lied to me. You said I mattered. You said I was special." "I was wrong," Daniel whispered. "But you don't have to do this. Let us go." For a moment, the world stood still. Then, slowly, Alexa lowered the knife. Her body trembled, and she collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Daniel called the police, his hands shaking so violently he nearly dropped the phone. When the officers took Alexa away, Beth stood in the corner, holding Emily close, her face pale and hollow. She didn't say a word to Daniel. Not that night. Not the next day. It would take months, maybe years, for the scars to heal. But Daniel knew one thing. His betrayal had nearly destroyed them. And even though Beth hadn't left, the shadow of Alexa would haunt their marriage forever.